Hi everyone! Aside from occasions where the parts of two or more of the same instruments frequently cross, or instances where a composer crosses parts to achieve a specific sound, such as having a lower voice or instrument above a higher one, reasons for part crossing in denser contrapuntal textures essentially fall into two categories. As a correction within one part's range, a part may leap to avoid the notes of another part, or if they're nearing the extremities of their own range, thereby crossing with another, and to avoid forbidden voice leading and or part writing rules, such as to avoid doubling a tendency tone. Because in denser contrapuntal textures, the movement within a voice's or instrument's range is often more restricted than in textures with less parts, part crossing is typically more frequent. In this way, while a composer still has great control over how their work develops, they're also often influenced by the established voice leading and or part writing rules and by the ranges of the work's instruments or voices. In this excerpt from the Confiteor of J.S. Bach's B minor Mass, some of these influences may be seen. This E half note in the tenor, for example, initially occupies the vertical space between the root and seventh of the underlying C sharp diminished seventh chord. On the bar's second half note beat, the vertical seventh becomes a fifth as the alto's contour descends to G, thereby restricting the options for the tenor's continuation. If the tenor's E remained in its initial location, for example, and proceeded with this contour but an octave lower, it would move to a unison D with the basses and then cross beneath that part to C sharp. To avoid this, Bach has the tenors leap an octave, placing them above the altos. It's only here, when the altos leap to E, the third of the underlying C sharp diminished seventh chord, do the parts revert to their typical vertical arrangement. The tenor and alto parts, however, cross again in the following bar when Bach has the altos leap to avoid doubling D major's third, which is already sounded by the second sopranos. The altos, however, on the bar's second half note beat, then leap up to F sharp, their intended note of resolution. Here, after this D half note, the tenor's melodic options are limited, as the first sopranos already contain the move from D to E flat, the seventh of the underlying F sharp diminished seventh chord, and the basses and continuo already contain the move from D to C. The F sharp diminished seventh chord's root note is also already sounded by the altos, thereby eliminating that option. From the tenor's D, therefore, to avoid potential parallels with the basses and continuo, Bach initially leaps to A, briefly doubling the F sharp diminished seventh chord's third degree before leaping up to C. Here also, to avoid potentially crossing below the bass's B flat note, Bach has the tenors leap to G, the fifth of the underlying C sharp diminished seventh harmony, again placing them above the altos. The parts remain crossed through the following bar until the altos here leap to the fifth of first inversion E dominant seventh harmony, while the tenors move to D. And here Bach has the first and second sopranos initially sound the same E note before the second sopranos move above the first. In the following bar, the soprano parts remain crossed until the second sopranos here leap to A, returning them to their typical location. The second soprano's leap is here necessary as the part's other voice leading options are unavailable. The typical resolution of the A dominant seventh chord's fifth degree to the root note of D minor harmony, for example, is already sounded in the tenor part, as is the option of having the E ascend to the third of D minor, which is already in the altos. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.